All right, welcome back to another episode of the KNL Sports Huddle. Cage Kiplinger, Logan Hubert, as always. Got another great episode for you here, guys. We're going to do some overreaction, underreaction to week one of the NFL season. Um, Great weekend of football. I don't know what you thought, but it was a lot of fun. Got to put on the red zone, and I wasn't displeased to see that. I guess I missed the commercials. That apparently there were 4 15-second commercials. I must have got up to go to the bathroom during those. Really fun weekend of college and pro football. We will go to our picks against the spread for week two coming up, and then we will finish things off as always with some college football talk. But Logan, nice to see you again. Get us started with some missed the cut.
Yeah, just two things that missed the cut. First, a big tennis event happened this weekend. Too bad I had to compete with the NFL and the NFL this weekend. But Carlos Alcaraz defeats Yannick Sinner. Get used to hearing those two names a lot because we already have. In 4 sets to win his second U.S. Open title. Yeah, these two guys are clearly 1 and 2 in their sport right now. Gone are the days of the Djokovic and Federer, Nadal, and Alcaraz and Sinner. I mean, it's pretty good rivalry that if you haven't checked in on, you should definitely check out. And then another tidbit. This is from baseball. This was a crazy outcome on Saturday, I believe. But the Dodgers pitcher Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he was 1 out away from a no hitter. Dodgers were up 3-0, and they ended up losing the game 4-3. Yeah, so he lost his no hitter to the Orioles with 1 out left, and not only did he, I mean, that happens a lot. You see a guy lose a no hitter, but usually most of the time his team still wins. Well, this was not the case. Somehow they blew it and lost 4-3 in the ninth inning. Any comments on that, because that was a pretty crazy result.
Yeah, that would have been the first no hitter this season. We actually haven't had one, and we might go a full season without one. We usually get one pretty early on, and it's kind of crazy that we haven't gotten one yet. But he's been Yamamoto has been a key contributor to the Dodgers this season. So tough that he just had one more out to get, and then he ends up blowing the win. But yeah, pretty good stuff by the Dodgers pitcher there. And as far as tennis, these two guys have ended up taking over right where Federer and Nadal basically left off, and they become the top two guys. I mean, they've been in almost pretty much every uh, big major final this season. Yeah, just I didn't watch it because it was just too much football going on, but definitely saw that come across my feed on Instagram later on in the day. But let's get into our week one overreaction, underreaction. And before we do that, just make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We are growing steadily each week here at the KNL Sports Huddle. Every little bit helps. What used to be 4 or 5 views on YouTube is now 30 to 40 consistently. So every little bit helps. Thank you guys for watching any little bit that you have. But let's get into this, Logan. So we each took 3 takes from this past weekend. We know with NFL, especially, every take is usually an overreaction to what just happened, and it's none truer than after week one of the NFL season. So I'll get things started. We'll just go back and forth here, and we'll decide whether our takes are an overreaction or if we pretty much agree with them and say that they're an underreaction. So my first one, obviously, with this Dolphins Colts game, I'm sure you saw it, and we're pretty pleased with what you saw with Daniel Jones scoring on every drive that the Colts had in that game. But with Miami, this is just, I mean, it's just reinvigorates my take that they're done. This is over with. They need to clean house. I don't think McDaniel sees Miami turf in the month of October. I think he's going to be out of there before the end of this month, and nothing looked good. It was an embarrassing performance for them and for a team that actually has some decent talent with the receiver core of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You're always concerned about Tua with the concussions, and then Mike McDaniel just never has control of this locker room. And recent reports are that Tyreek Hill's ex is making claims about domestic violence, whatnot, and it seems to be just snowballing for them here.
Yeah, I watched that entire game, and Chain was okay. I guess I'll give him that. He was fine. He had a late garbage time touchdown, but he got a few. His running wasn't terrible, but that was basically the only bright spot of the entire day for the Dolphins, even if you can even call it that. Yeah, I mean, Tua was an absolute mess. The Colts defense just looked like it just rattled and confused him the entire game. He threw two picks and fumbled it once. Um, yeah, our receivers had trouble getting open with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. It's kind of sad. And with the Mike McDaniel as your coach scheming, that's not a good sign either. And the defense and just even special teams made errors that a lot of it to do with coaching and all that. You can just tell. Yeah, I think this whole thing is going to end up being a train wreck. We'll get to our prediction on their week 2 game here later. But yeah, I don't think the future is very bright for Miami this season, and I agree mostly with your take. I think it could be a total blow up, but that's what we call it, an overreaction, because there's still games to be played. Okay, we are going to start with my first take, and that um, this is my main takeaway from the Friday night game in Brazil. That for me, the main takeaway was that it wasn't really about how good Justin Herbert was. It was mostly about how bad the Chiefs' defense was in that game. I mean, how I would describe Herbert's performance was flawless. He never made a mistake, which is great from a quarterback. But I'm not going to. I mean, I mean, his stats look good too, but everyone's claiming he looked super elite, and I guess you can maybe call it elite if you don't make mistakes a lot. But what I saw was that he was just playing pitch and catch with his wide receivers the entire game. Like, I don't know what the Chiefs defense was doing, because he was throwing to McConkey and Allen, and there was like no guy within 3 or 4 yards of him every time. So I don't know. I mean, I trust the Chiefs to figure it out, but that to me that raised some major red flags, and to me that was the bigger storyline than Herbert's stat line. But maybe it was just the Chargers scheme. Maybe credit to the Chargers offensive coordinator and Harbaugh for putting in that game plan. But to me, I mean, that was just atrocious defense. And to cap it all off, that 3rd and 14, or it was a 3rd and 18 run by Herbert where there was no one
Yeah.
near. That was just the perfect exclamation point for a terrible day for the Chiefs defense.
Yeah, it never seemed like the Chargers were had their back against the wall. Like it just felt like a very freeing game for them offensively. Um, I don't really think it's that much of an overreaction to say that the Chiefs defense was uh, more of the storyline here. Obviously, if you're watching the Sports Center or anything like that, you're hearing about Herbert and the great game that he had. But I would tend to agree with you the fact that this Chiefs defense isn't what we're used to seeing from KC, and it didn't ever seem like Jim Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, ever made really adjustments to the defense to counteract anything that Herbert and that offense was doing. So yeah, I would tend to agree and say that that's not as much of an overreaction that maybe some would think it would be. For my second one, this one is near and dear for my Cincinnati Bengals. Watching their game, what we thought would happen with Burrow in this offense ended up happening. Coming out sluggish week 1, we it's kind of happened the past few seasons with him and this offense where they just come out sluggish and they end up dropping a game to a lesser opponent. They got lucky, and a lot of that had to do with their defense bailing them out. They got 2 interceptions late, both by Jordan Battle. And I tend to think that maybe the Al Golden hire at defensive coordinator might have just improved this defense. And I mean, they could actually be good defensively in those games that they lost, all those close games that they would lose last season. Maybe that's going to flip for them this year.
Yeah, I semi agree with you here. Because I thought I was kind of expecting a little higher scoring game, because I just did not trust the Bengals defense at all after last year and the preseason and all the Hendrickson drama before the season started. Um, I thought Flacco had a really good day. I just think a lot of it had to do with the Browns just being the Browns. Like you look at Joe's stat line, he had 2 interceptions, but if you watch the replays of both the interceptions, it was just his receivers just dropped the ball.
Yeah, they basically handed it to him.
They handed it to him, yeah. But still, I mean, they held him to 16 points, so that was impressive because I predicted that Flacco would have his way. A veteran quarterback like that would have his way against a weak defense. But one game we'll see what happens when they play a more competent team. Okay, yeah, my second take. We're staying in the division, and that is after what I watched week one. If Aaron Rodgers remains healthy, the Steelers will contend. I'm not going to say they're going to win, but they will contend until the very end for the AFC North crown. So when it comes to the Steelers as of late, the joke has been that they just barely get over that 500 mark so Mike Tomlin can keep his streak alive. But everyone knows they're just an average football team who gets bounced in the first round. But if you look at these teams, their quarterbacks would have been Pickett, Rudolph, old washed up Russell Wilson, and they've been relying on their defense. It's basically just been ugly football, relying on their defense to get to that 9-8 mark. Well, if you watch that Jets Steelers game, the defense was really nowhere to be found, and that game was won by Aaron Rodgers in the offense. He threw 4 touchdown passes. He looked similar to Green Bay, late stage Green Bay Aaron Rodgers, and I just trust Pittsburgh's never had a bad defense, so I trust their defense will figure it out over the course of the season. And as long as Rodgers stays healthy, I think he seems happier in Pittsburgh than he ever did in New York. I know that's after just 1 week, but I could see this going all the way to all the way to the very end. This AFC North crown, and I predicted they make the wild card as a 7th seed at the beginning of the year because they always do, and they always for some reason do. But I am now more confident in that pick.
I am not buying it. I cannot get on board with this Pittsburgh hype train you're on. But now that I know they'll probably end up with going 9-8 at the end of the year, making the playoffs somehow. But the Steelers' defense was one of the most shocking things I saw this weekend. That they allowed that many points, which is their bread and butter, is to be a staunch defense that holds teams to low scores, and they let Justin Fields and the Jets run up and down the field on them. Now, Justin Fields had a great game, the best one I think I've ever seen him play at the NFL level. It was so much fun to watch, but I don't know. It's just not what I'm used to seeing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I don't know. I'm waiting for that first hit from Myles Garrett on Aaron Rodgers to, put this season to bed for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Now, yeah, I will say that is one thing because I think Rodgers did take a few sacks in that game, so that is concerning, and that's why I put the healthy part because yes,
Right.
if he goes down, this whole ship will sink, and then they'll
Yeah.
be uninspiring 9-8 to finish.
All right, I'm gonna finish it up with the Detroit Lions. This game between them and the Green Bay Packers was the big CBS game, late one. And after watching what they did at Lambeau, I'm saying that this is not the Super Bowl contending team that was there the last couple of years. They may still get into the playoffs. It's very likely that they do and they figure this thing out, but they are missing their coordinators dearly. I was worried about it coming into the season. That's why I dropped them down to finishing second in the division. But seeing what they were able to do on both sides of the ball, it was just not a clean game on either side. Jordan Love had a great game. The Packers pretty much dominated most of that game, but from just what I'm seeing offensively, they were held to 44 yards rushing between both Montgomery and Gibbs on just 20 carries. So them not being able to run the ball and seeing that O-line with some of the guys that are, Ragnow's retired and, some other guys not on that O-line that they used to have, I'm kind of worried about them.
Yeah, I'm not ready to fully go there yet because there was a tough week 1 game at Green Bay right after Micah Parsons signed. The juice is flowing. And basically, that was the main game of the evening. So most of the attention was on that game. And yeah, Green Bay just went out there and played played for the city of Green Bay there and just played inspired football, and Detroit looked lost. But yeah, I'm not going there yet because I still think the Lions culture is strong. I believe that was all started by Dan Campbell, um, and there's still plenty of talent on this roster. And I just think they ran into the wrong team at the wrong time in Week 1. I still think they'll bounce back. Super Bowl contender, not as good as last year. Last year they were pretty close to the top of the rankings in Super Bowl contending, but I would still say that they're a fringe contenders where I'll put them. Okay, and then my last take is I'm staying in that division again with the NFC North, and that is that after my watching one game of year 2 Caleb Williams, I have declared that his ceiling is Kyler Murray. And what do I mean by that? There will be fun plays. There will be glimpses of, wow, why can't he do this all the time? But in the end, the best he'll ever do is maybe earn a wild card spot and get bounced in the first round. There were just, I mean, in that game yesterday was just kind of like the full Kyler Murray experience, I thought, where he looked really good, really strong at times where, like, how did he make that throw? Like, only 3 other guys in the league can make that throw. And then just missing wide open guys, making bad reads. The O-line false starting all the time. I know that is partly on the quarterback. I know the O-line does deserve some blame, but I mean, that happened multiple times yesterday. So yeah, I thought there'd be more of a jump. He looked really good in that first drive. So if I would have turned the TV off the first drive and the game was over after the first drive, I wouldn't have had this take. But watching the rest of that game, he lowered. I don't think he's going to reach those super high expectations that he had whenever he was first picked.
Yeah, I'm not ready to put the Kyler Murray ceiling on that yet. That would be quite the ceiling to have to be put onto Caleb
Yeah,
Williams. But
that's not bust. That's not bust material, but it's disappointment material. Is what
right,
it is. That's first.
especially for the number one overall going to the Bears that are desperate for anything at the QB position. But I'm kind of treating this season for Caleb like his rookie year because of last year with Eberflus and then Mike Brown. Like he never actually got a coach that knew what he was doing, and now he's got Ben Johnson, who is a great offensive mind, but it's going to be some growing pains and some getting used to his offensive scheme. And I think just give it some time. I think he'll come around. And look, the talent's there. It's always been there, and I think Ben Johnson needs to just tap into that for him. And it was a tough defense to go up against. One of the best defenses under Brian Flores that the Vikings threw at him last night, and it was clear that he was running for his life on a few plays, and at least he was able to get it out of the pocket and make some plays from outside the pocket. Yeah, tough defense to go up against. Pump the brakes on that for now. We'll see what happens. It's still a long season for Caleb. All right, week 2 picks against the spread. Last week, what did you go? Did you go 10-6?
5.
11-5. Okay, we both ended up going 11-5. Pretty good week. 69% if you round up against the spread. So we'll keep track of that as the season goes. But a good first week to get us started here.
Absolutely.
On the channel here. But let's kick things off with our Thursday night match.
Very quickly, what was each other's worst pick? I think mine was.
It was
Dolphins. Mine was Dolphins plus.
Oh, yours was the Dolphins.
Plus
yeah.
1.5. Yeah.
The one that I was most upset about was probably picking New England because I think I went back and forth on that one, and I should have just gone with that one. You end up going with the Raiders, and that was the best decision to go with there. But I would definitely say the Giants came out. They were that was a rough game for them.
Yeah, I
against
went
the Commanders.
That was pretty bad. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll start with the Thursday night game. Commanders at Packers. This line at 3.5 in favor of Green Bay. Look, I don't love the 3.5, but I'm going to side with Green Bay here. I am going to favor the home team on a short week. I don't fault for someone taking Washington at 3.5, though. That's a good number to take them at. Jaden Daniels is electric, and he could definitely win this game, no doubt, and get this within a field goal. But I think just on a short week, given how Green Bay played against Detroit, I like them going into the Thursday night game.
Yeah, you basically said exactly what I was going to say. Not only is Green Bay at home, they were home last week, so there's no short travel. They played at Green Bay, stay for 3 days, wait for 3 days, play again. Yeah, I do not like that. I don't like the half
Yeah.
out of that three. That scares me. Just interesting nugget here. Washington has not won at Lambeau since 1986, um, which would make you feel more comfortable with the three because it's hard. You usually don't see too many teams win by one or two when compared to three. So, but I'm going to go with you. I just think Green Bay's right now is the better team. I know Washington played really well with Debo, looking really good against the Giants last week. But yeah, I'm not super because of because of the extra half. I don't like that. This isn't one of my favorite picks, but I'm just gonna side with you and go Packers plus 3.5. Okay, starting off with the 1 o'clock or noon slate, depending on for Eastern or Central. We have the Jaguars at the Bengals. And I am going to go Jaguars plus 3.5. Are you seeing 3.5 right now? Yes, especially with that half. I love the Jaguars here because I'm going to read you the exact same stats I read last week, except add a game. So Burrow is 2-9 now, straight up in weeks 1 and 2, but has dropped to 3-8 against the spread in weeks 1 and 2. So once after week 2, I'll probably side more with the Bengals in the future. But since it's still the first 2 weeks, and I think Jacksonville looked pretty good in that their opener, I'm going to go Jaguars plus 3.5.
Last week, I bet against my Cincinnati Bengals, and I came out on top with Cleveland. I think it was plus 5.5 or something like that. This one opened at minus 5.5 in favor of Cincinnati, and given Cincinnati's performance on Sunday, it went down 2 points to 3.5. I'm inclined to go with Cincy on this one just because of the huge drop. I think coming off a close win, I think we're bound to see a bounce back offensively for this team, and I think we'll see Burrow and that offense put up some points this week against the Jaguars defense, which secondary wise don't love, but they do have some guys up front that could get to Burrow on that D line, given the offensive line struggles for Cincinnati. But I like a team off a close win compared to a team like the Jaguars off a blowout win. I think that usually comes out. The team with the short win has a little bit more to play for the next week. So I'm
Yeah,
going with Cincinnati.
that's fair. And yeah, I will say Burrow. He took some shots in the against the Browns. He
Yeah,
that one
seven second
possession,
half passing yards.
that one possession, he got sacked on 3 straight plays. That was pretty brutal.
Yeah. Giants and Cowboys. Cowboys favored at 5.5 on this line. To me, this is one of the easiest picks. I'm going with Dallas because Dak absolutely feasts on the Giants specifically in that division. He does really well against NFC East opponents in that division, but especially the Giants. He takes care of his business when playing, and he just beats the shit out of bad teams. And so I definitely like this one. I'm pretty much out on Russell Wilson being the QB for the Giants. I think they need to make the move to Dart very soon. Brian Dable has already confirmed that Wilson will be starting this Sunday against the Cowboys, so that gives me even more confidence in this pick. And the O line in front of him just is not there. They didn't invest in the O line this offseason. They, obviously, Abdul Carter, the pick was great because you get another great edge rusher. But I think if they would have invested in the offensive line, that this would have been a lot better for him. But I'm out on Wilson. I'm out on this O line. Neighbors getting emotional in the game last weekend. It isn't looking good for them.
Yeah, I think I said earlier a few weeks ago that I would hold on Dart because of how brutal their schedule is. I think I would start him week 5, I think, because they play the Saints that week. If you throw him in now, well, he's not going to play this week, but if you throw him after that, it's the Chiefs and the Chargers, and I don't think those are. I don't know if that's a good game to throw him in there. So yeah, I would maybe wait till week 5 against the Saints to throw him in there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The Cowboys are going to cover this 5.5 point spread. Dak is 7-1 straight up against the Giants at home in his career. I think that one loss was his very first start, and that was I remember that game. That was when Eli Manning was still quarterback, and that was a close game that it came right down to the wire. But yeah, I'm pretty confident in the Cowboys covering the spread. And I mean, keep in mind, and we haven't talked about this. The Cowboys played pretty well against the Eagles Thursday night. And like you said, the Giants' biggest strength would be their D line. I know the Eagles lost Jalen Carter, but the Eagles' front seven's still pretty good, and the Cowboys played pretty well against that. So I think I'm very confident in the Cowboys covering that. Next, we have two NFC North teams who lost over the weekend, looking for a bounce back. We have the Bears at the Lions. Last I checked, this was a 5.5 point spread in favor of the Lions, the home team, and I like that. I think I'm going to take the Lions here. I just expect a big rebound from Dan Campbell's squad. Going against your former offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. But if this was at Chicago, I'd probably feel more confident Johnson would want to beat Detroit even worse. But I think since at Detroit, they're going to really emphasize beating the Bears in this game because of how he left. Yeah, I just expected, like I talked about culture earlier, I feel like the Lions just have this culture where they got kicked in the teeth last week against the divisional opponent. There's no way they're going to let that happen again, especially in their home opener. I could see them really destroying the Lions. I'm not
Yeah,
saying they will, but I could see this being a pretty
yeah.
competitive game.
They got kicked in the teeth last week, and they're going to bite some kneecaps this week. So, the one thing with Detroit, I am a little worried about their O line, as I mentioned before. But in the case that what Chicago yesterday, they got to McCarthy quite a bit throughout that game, and so just being wary of that with the Detroit offensive line. But there's growing pains for both of these teams, with the Detroit Lions not having their coordinators now, and with Ben Johnson in Chicago. But I think it's just it's more likely that the Lions jump out early and take this one by more than the 5.5 point spread on this. So I'm in agreement with you with the Lions here. I can't trust that Caleb and Ben Johnson's going to just go into Detroit and keep this one close. But I just think it's highly likely that the Lions jump out on this one. So definitely taking Detroit minus 5.5. Rams and Titans. Titans plus 5.5 on the spread here. I'm actually going with Tennessee on this one. I like what I saw out of Cam Ward against the Broncos. They didn't put up a ton of points, but what I saw from him, he was able to do some really good things against a really elite defense with the Denver Broncos. I would try to find this at a 6 if you can. There are some 6s out there on FanDuel. It's at 5.5. That's what we look off of. But I just feel like the Rams are kind of just getting by. They kind of just got by last week against a pretty good defense with the Houston Texans. But Matthew Stafford, outdoors on grass. I would definitely take the Titans on the spread here since Stafford won't be indoors and under a dome.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd agree on this one, but I am also going Titans plus 5.5. I see this as a low-scoring, ugly game. You didn't mention, but the Titans' defense played really well, I thought, at
Yep.
Denver in Week 1. And
that was something that the Titans' defense was good last year,
yeah, they
and
just fell apart.
Willis would just throw games away.
Well, and then by the end of the year, they're just exhausted, and
They were out on it.
they're not going to be as good, as they were at the beginning of the year. Yeah, so it's still Week 2. I know the Texans' defense was really good, but the Rams' offense was not very good last week. They only managed to put up 14 points, so I could see. Yeah, I guess I could see another low-scoring, ugly game. The Rams' defense is pretty good, so I don't think Cam Ward's going to have his breakout game here. But yeah, I can see the Rams winning this game by like a field goal or something. Uh, it's definitely I wouldn't recommend watching this game if you. I would the under is the more safe play here in my opinion. But if I have to pick, I'm going to go Titans plus 5.5. Okay, and now we are switching to the AFC East, another game of divisional opponents who came off a bad loss, looking to rebound in week 2 to avoid that 0-2 start. We have the Patriots at the Dolphins. Last I checked, are you seeing this? Dolphins are 1.5-point favorites. Okay, we talked about how horrible the Dolphins are, and the season's probably over. And the whole crew, coaching staff, probably Tua, management's going to be out. I like the Dolphins here, though. I like them at -1.5. Tua is 5-0 at home against the Patriots, and all of those wins were by more than 2 or more possessions. None of those games were even close. We talked about this in the offseason. I know we kind of predicted Miami wouldn't be very good. Miami be one of those teams that falls apart, but I remember mentioning this. It's even Brady had struggles in Miami. Something about New England going down to Miami, despite how the teams look, Miami just always plays well in this game most of the time, and I could see that happening here. I just think there's enough talent on this team where when you get humiliated that badly, they're going to put up some extra fight in this week. I don't know, McDaniel's not a very good motivator and all that, but still, as a player, you have pride, and I think they're going to come out strong in this week 2 game. I still think they're going to be a bad team, but I think the Dolphins win this. The Patriots go to 0-2, so they cover that 1.5-point spread.
You're running it back with Miami again this week. I'm going to run it back with New England. I think Mike Vrabel is going to be able to get his boys ready to go for this one the way Mike McDaniel cannot. I think it's much more of a bounce back situation for the Patriots, who I just think have a better just coaching staff in general, and a young QB with he got a wake up call with the Raiders in Week 1, but I think there's just too much going on in Miami right now with Tyreek Hill, with what's going on in the locker room, and Mike McDaniel. I don't even know what's going on with this team. It's just I don't like anything about it. I've said enough about the Dolphins and my opinions on them. I'm going with the Pats on this one. um, 49ers and Saints. So I'm going to take San Francisco, but we will see what happens if Brock Purdy is going to start. I think I reserve the right to be able to change this one if given the news. We'll see if this is going to be Brock Purdy or if it's going to be Mac Jones. Still might be too much movement on the Saints side. I think this one opened up at like 6.5 initially, so it has gone down since the 49ers performance and the uncertain news about Brock Purdy. But the Saints gave up 150 yards on the ground against Arizona, and I think given the fact that Christian McCaffrey and Brian Robinson on that running back room for San Francisco was able to do some pretty good things against Seattle, I think they're going to be able to run up and down the field on the Saints here.
I think even if Mac Jones is the starting quarterback for the 49ers, I still like them to cover. Yeah, I mean, if you have McCaffrey, I think Jones, I could picture Mac Jones being competent under Shanahan for one game. Jones is probably one of the better backups in the league at this point, and basically all you need to do is hand the ball off to McCaffrey most of the time. So, and saw Robert Sala's defense against Spencer Rattler. I mean, Bosa and Fred Warner did not get hurt in Week 1, so they're still there for Week 2. I see them winning and covering even at 4.5. It gets any higher, maybe stay away from it. But
Yeah.
this is more about me just trusting the 49ers system more than me trusting the Saints operation. I also think the Saints played fairly well given their expectations last week. And from what I've seen, when a projected horrible team plays okay Week 1 but loses, they usually get trampled week 2. Like, okay, yeah, this is more like it. So, I think that'll happen this time. But okay, another AFC East showdown. We have the Bills at the Jets. Is this? I checked it earlier today. It was at plus or is at -7? 7 point spread. It's still at 7.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going with the Jets just because I think this is just too many points for a home division game. Plus, if it goes to 6.5, then I probably take the Bills. But at 7, uh, I think the Jets will cover that. I think Buffalo's going to win this, but the Jets played well last week, and not totally like the Steelers, but similar to the Steelers. I think there's enough talent on their defense that I feel like they played bad last week, but I think they'll figure it out maybe this week. And I mean, frankly, the last 2 years, this game has been really close. At Buff Bills at Josh Allen at the Jets. Last year was a 3-point win by the Bills, and the year before that was that home opener where the Jets won off the. That was the day that Rodgers tore his Achilles, but the Jets still won that in overtime off the punt return. So yeah, I just think it's been a close series last 2 years at New York. So I'm going to go Jets +7.
Yeah, total agreement here. I think with the division home dog coming off a tough loss, I think this is a pretty easy pick. This is a ton of points, especially with the Bills coming off an emotional comeback victory. What a game that was! Sunday Night Football, Bills, Ravens. A lot of the Bills fans left the stadium too early. Felt like Miami Heat, San Antonio Spurs finals situation.
Yeah, that was a poor showing by Bills Mafia. They left the
Right.
game. They threw a bottle at Derrick Henry as he ran down, as he scored one of his touchdowns. That one fan touched he touched Hopkins and he grabbed Jackson. Lamar pushed him. Yeah, that was a poor showing for Bills Mafia. So, but yeah, credit to Josh Allen for that incredible comeback. And if you're a Bills fan, write thank you letters to John Harbaugh because he was. I
Yeah.
know Henry deserves blame for the fumble, but I mean he was also one of the reasons they were up so much. But Harbaugh made some couple
Yeah,
boneheaded moves.
and the Bills going up against another dual threat quarterback in Fields. He's not at the level of a Lamar Jackson, at least passing wise, but from what I saw from him last week, and I'm not sold on the Bills defense. Obviously, they gave up
Yeah,
40 points.
Ed Oliver basically saved them from maybe Ravens scoring 60 in that game. Yeah,
Right.
the Bills' defense was bad in that game.
Yeah. All right. Seahawks Steelers. Seahawks favored two, or actually Steelers favored 2.5 is what I'm seeing for this one. Um, with I mentioned the Steelers defense before. This is the highest paid defense in the league, and they got throttled by the Jets offense last week. They really just got bailed out by Rodgers, and I don't see a 40-year-old quarterback being able to sustain that over multiple weeks. I know this is just week 2, but I'm not banking on that happening again this week. So I'm going to take Seattle at +2.5 to take this one on the spread. I think largely they dominated, maybe not dominated, but like control a lot of that game versus the 49ers. Just late in that one, Brock Purdy showed why he's a little underrated in this league. And Darnold wasn't great, but I really like this defense from Seattle and what they'll be able to do against Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, this was the line last week, and I lost on it, but the Steelers still won by 2. And I'm going to go with the Steelers this week. I just frankly trust Tomlin and Rodgers more than I trust Sam Darnold, especially in a Pittsburgh home opener. This is definitely not my confident pick because I think Seattle's a competent team, and it's hard to picture them starting 0-2. But
Plus, I'm fading Mike Tomlin as a favorite. It just
yeah,
I am going to keep doing that.
yeah, but like I said, I expressed my giddiness for the Steelers earlier in this podcast, so I guess I have to ride with that. But yeah, I mean, Seattle's defense was pretty good in their week 1 game, so if they can get to Rodgers, that can definitely change the tide in this one. But I don't know. I just think vibes are good in Pittsburgh right now, and they'll continue for another week. Okay, and I believe this is our last 1 o'clock window game. The Cleveland Browns at the Ravens. Is this at 11.5? That's what I saw.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it is at 11.5, and same logic applies. to the Jets Bills game. That's just way too many points for a division game. Flacco versus his old team. I just can't see him losing by that much. Recall last year was Ravens team. They lost that emotional week 1 game at Kansas City where Isaiah Likely's toe was just a little too big. And then what happened? They played the Raiders at home. I think they're 11.5 or 12-point favorites, and they somehow lost to Gardner Minshew and the Raiders at home, which was pretty embarrassing. Obviously, they came back and wrote the ship for the rest of the year. But still, yeah, that was bad. This is also, to me, a case of Ravens might look ahead. After this game, it's Detroit and the Chiefs. So when your schedule is the Bills, the Browns, Lions, and Chiefs, the Browns is definitely the game where they could skip over and look ahead. And I fully expect them to win this game. They're at home. The Browns are terrible, but to me, 11.5 with competent quarterback play. I think Joe Flacco's competent. I just don't. That's just too many points for me.
Yeah, normally when I see like 7 or more points, I immediately start hitting the underdog in these games. Just in this situation with double digit spread here. Since 2015, only 43% of double digit road dogs in the division cover the spread. So I think what that's going for me, because I do have Baltimore at minus 11.5 on this one. I think you're going to get an angry Ravens team after letting one slip away in Buffalo. I think Lamar's going to be able to do some good things. The part of it, given that it is a division game, that's the only thing that kind of scares me about this one. This did open at 12.5, so it has gone down a little bit. I'd say if this does get any lower, I'll definitely be taking it at those lower numbers. But I think off an emotional loss, they want to come back and right the ship and not leave any doubt with this game. I think they can get to Joe Flacco with this one, but it is a scary pick for me. But I think with the 43% stat, I think I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens on this one, minus 11.5. Broncos at the Colts. So we get the horses in this one. Indy underdog plus 2.5 is what I'm going with here. You saw last week that with and Bo Nix isn't the only guy. Full season of film on now a second year quarterback is going to have an effect on these guys coming into the season, and it did last week. I think the Tennessee Titans did really well against Bo Nix. The offense just did not look great. They were able to get out of that game with a victory, but I thought Tennessee did a really good job against him. And I'm going to ride the Colts train right now. I mean, I think vibes couldn't be higher after that Week 1 performance with Daniel Jones at under QB. So I think I'm just going to run with it here for the time being. I know that wave's going to ride itself out, but I think for the second week, I'm going to stay on it with them.
For me, this is a definite stay away game mostly because Bo Nix was atrocious last week, and I know we talked about, yeah, like you said, they have film on you, so we don't know. Maybe he'll just have a bad year, but there's no way he plays that bad again. He played horrible against the Colts last year. I remember that. The only reason they won that game is because their defense and Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball at the end zone. But yeah, this is a stay away game for me. I'm actually going to go opposite of you. You say vibes are high in Indy, and I agree. But I've seen this story before in recent years, and vibes are high with this mediocre franchise. Water finds its level. So I'm going to take the Broncos minus 2.5. Not confident at all. This is probably, like I said, the biggest stay away game for me because there's a chance that the Colts have figured it out. I mean, they haven't won a Week 1 game. This is uncharted territory for the Colts. They haven't won. They're 1-0 for the first time since 2013. So yeah, there's really not much to base anything on with how they'll perform in Week 2. So yeah, this is an interesting game. Denver's defense is still excellent, way 100 times better than Miami's defense. So Daniel Jones will not score on every possession this game. But yeah, gun to head, I'm going to go Broncos minus 2.5. Another game I'm not really knowing what to do with, Panthers and Cardinals. This is at Arizona. They are a 6.5-point favorite. Is that what you're
Again,
seeing?
yeah.
Again, I see a little. I see the Panthers bouncing back a little bit from that. We haven't talked about that. Yeah, Bryce Young, all goodwill from that at the end of his second year. That kind of went away in week one against the Jaguars because him and the offense looked really bad. But man, this one's tough because
It this was the hardest one for me.
yeah, because Travis Etienne ran all over the Panthers last week, and you could see James Conner and Murray doing that this week. But I don't think the Cardinals are a great team. I predicted they would start 2-0, so this is not talking about money line here. We're just talking about the spread. I'm going to go Panthers plus 6.5. Not very confident in this one, but I just think there will be a minor bounce back after their horrible week one performance. And frankly, the Cardinals weren't great last week.
No.
I mean, they covered, but I mean, to me on paper, it was pretty obvious who the better team was. Them were the Saints, and it was that game came down to the wire. I mean, the Saints had a chance to tie it at the end.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, Panthers plus 6.5 is what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I went back and forth. I hate everything about this game. I'm not going to watch it most likely, and I'm probably not going to bet it. And I will take Arizona 6.5. Same spread as last week against the Saints. I know they're bad in NFC South team they're playing this week. This one they get at home at least. So I think I'm just going to side with them. I could see, like you said, Kyler Murray and James Conner running up and down on this Panthers defense. So not my least favorite pick throughout this whole slate of games, but I'll go with the Cardinals. All right. Super Bowl rematch, Eagles at the Chiefs. It's flipped a couple times
Yeah.
at that 1.5 line. It was Chiefs were underdogs, and the Chiefs were favored, and then we're back. What I'm seeing as the Chiefs being plus 1.5 underdogs here. It's a rare opportunity to take Mahomes as a home underdog. It very rarely happens. The Eagles will have Jalen Carter back this week after getting thrown out of that Cowboys game. The one thing with Philadelphia, and they granted they didn't have Carter, they gave up a lot of penalty yards. They gave up a ton. I think they led the league last week in total penalty yards given up. Usually you would this one's so hard. You would think maybe a revenge spot for KC with the Super Bowl. It's usually an auto hit if KC's an underdog. But is it this season? I'm just not totally sure. But I'm going to stay true to it. It's still Mahomes. It's still Andy Reid. I'm going KC plus 1.5.
So when I wrote this down, it was Chiefs at 1.5. And that's what I went with. And the only note I put is I just trust this organization to bounce back. And that's it. Another thing that just came to my mind was that some of those Eagles young defenders did not look excellent like they did last year in their game against the Cowboys. So I could see a little bit of regression actually from this defense at first. And yeah, frankly, I just trust Mahomes and Reed. And look, Spagnuolo, I talked about earlier how bad the Chiefs defense was. There's no way they're going to leave guys that wide open again. I know they're playing against a really good offense, but I just like Kansas City at home. Their home opener, Super Bowl rematch. Eagles defense didn't look too inspiring until the end of the game last week. I'm going to go Chiefs minus 1.5. Okay, Sunday Night Football. I don't know how this game got slated as the primetime game, but Falcons and Vikings. 4.5. Is that what you're seeing? Yeah, I'm gonna go. I want to take the Falcons here. Similar to this is kind of similar to last year. If you recall, the Falcons lost week one, and then they went on the road in a hostile environment in a primetime game week two. Last year's against the Eagles, and they upset the Eagles. I kind of see the same thing. I could see the same thing happening here. McCarthy was pretty bad in the first half, but pretty dang good in the second half. So we still don't really know who he is yet because He did make one really good throw in the first half to get a field goal on that last drive, but other than that, he was really bad. Then he threw that pick six, but credit to him for bouncing back from that.
Right.
Rarely see that from a young quarterback, so good for him. And but Falcons were close. They had many opportunities to win that game against the Buccaneers last week. I think Penix looked pretty good, and their defense also looked okay. Given the Falcons historically have never had a good defense, I thought they played all right. And yeah, I just see this as a bounce back game. Sunday Night Football, Falcons take plus 4.5. I'd probably take them to win it too, but I'm not going to go there.
Ooh. Uh, I think it's crazy McCarthy's getting back-to-back primetime games. Get the Monday night game, then gets the Sunday night game right after. What a way to open up your NFL career. I'm going Minnesota minus 4.5. I think I'm banking on this defense being able to get Penix off schedule, get him out of the pocket, and I mentioned it in our NFC South preview that if you get Penix, if he's on schedule, if he's got time, he's really good, and you know if you get him outside of the pocket, get him scrambling, he's not the same player. And last the Vikings game against the Bears, they were able to get to Caleb, and Caleb's a guy who can take off. He can improvise. He's really good at doing that, and he's able to avoid a lot of those one-on-one defenders that he gets lined up with when they bring those blitzes. Penix isn't that kind of guy, and I think this Brian Flores defense is going to be able to get to him early and often in this one. So I'm going Minnesota minus 4.5. Take a couple primetime games to start off this season for them. Buccaneers and Texans, the first of a doubleheader on Monday night. I put in the note here. I need convincing on this one. I have no idea where to go with this one. For me, Houston wasn't impressive, and the Buccaneers. This is usually a spot you'd fade Baker, coming off a big win, a close win against a divisional opponent. But for me, Houston with what's his name, Joe Mixon being out, Chubb is not the answer, and them getting Nick Chubb it is not the answer. The Rams, what they were able to do against C.J. Stroud, doubling up Nico Collins, made Stroud throw to his other targets. It worked and held them pretty low on the stat sheet. So Bucks coming off an emotional road win. Like I said, it could be a bad spot for them. I think I'll go Texans with this one just because of the 2.5 number. I think maybe they'll get the home victory in prime time, get the field goal win.
Yeah, I think both of these teams are on about the same level. If you power rank them at the beginning of the year, I still don't think it's changed even after week one. As a Colts fan, I would love to see the Buccaneers beat the Texans so Houston can start 0-2. But I'm fairly confident that Houston wins and covers the 2.5. Like I said, these two teams are very similar for how good they are. And yeah, I like we said about Baker. Yeah, this just kind of feels like a game where you kind of fade him. And I mean, Houston's defense is still really good. I mean, like I said, they talked about the Rams earlier. The Rams' offense looked horrible. Houston's defense had a lot to do with that. So did Matthew Stafford's age, but and injury. But I think Houston's defense had a lot to do with that as well. And I could see them still frustrating this Buccaneers offense. If there ever was a game for CJ Stroud to refigure it out, this would be the game because this was the game he broke. This exact game, home against the Buccaneers, was his breakout game 2 years ago. He threw for 470 yards and threw that dart to win the game, win that high-scoring game, and that's where the whole hype train of CJ Stroud rightfully started. So yeah, if there was ever a time to figure it out, it'd be this game, poetically. And I don't know. There's no way he throws for 400 yards again. I don't think he'll do that this year with how their offense looks without Joe Mixon. But I think they'll find a way to cover the 2.5-point spread. And then lastly, our final game of the week. It starts at 10 Eastern, 9 Central. I don't know whose idea it was to have Monday night doubleheaders. It's always been a bad idea. But we have the Chargers at the Raiders. What are you seeing this at?
seeing the Chargers favored by 3.
3. Because it's only at 3, I'm going to take the Chargers. If that gets to 3.5, I will take the Raiders. Because I just think divisional opponents, Raiders with Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, they're much better than they have been in previous years. More veteran presence, competent presence. And Chargers coming off an emotional win in Brazil. I know they've had extra rest. But yeah, like I said, 3.5. I'm going to take the Raiders. It's at 3, and I have to pick. I'm going to take the Chargers because I think the Chargers are the better team, and I just expect in this kind of game the better team to win. But the Chargers usually find a way to charger at some point, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chargers at -3. Herbert looked great. I know we mentioned it could have just been the Chiefs defense, but there's just still something to be said about Herbert's performance in that game.
Yeah, I
The
also don't
Raiders,
trust the Raiders defense yet. I
right?
love Max Crosby, but other than that, I don't have trust in them yet.
Yeah, and they only beat Drake May and the Patriots. They didn't go in week 1 and beat the Eagles or anybody like that. So, there's not a ton of trust still yet in the Raiders organization. So I think I'll just go with the better quarterback, the better team, the better coach. I think in Jim Harbaugh. So let's wrap that up with the
If that
Chargers
moved
at
to three
three.
and
I
a
think.
half, what if that moved to 3.5? Would you still take the Chargers?
I think I would. I think I'd still be on the Chargers for this one. I think this will be a good win for them. Um, all right, so that's week 2. We'll keep track of that. We'll keep track of our overall record and our week-to-week records here against the spread. But let's finish up with some college football. We had some pretty good games last week. We didn't think it was going to be quite the weekend that it was for college football. As Florida, I think, got to be the biggest story. Getting upset at home against South Florida. This was just awful for Gator Nation, especially because Billy Napier, the head coach, had built up some grace over last season's end of year streak that they put together after a rough start to the season where he was put on the hot seat very quickly. And all of that is gone. The good graces are gone after a home loss to an unranked team, a group of 6 team in the South Florida Bulls. What do you make of this with them? Because looking at their schedule, I mean, this was
It's gonna
this was the this was the easy part of their
it's gonna get
schedule.
bad.
They've got
Yes.
LSU, Miami, Texas, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, who just knocked off Arizona State, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State. It's a gauntlet.
Yeah. They had a gauntlet last year too, but they also didn't have a bad loss to South Florida to start things off. So I don't like where this is going for down in Gainesville at all. But yeah, that was a shocker. But I was glad as a fan of the sport, I was glad to see an upset happen, and it was supposed to be a down week. That was interesting to watch. But the other big game was Oklahoma and Michigan, where I believe Oklahoma pretty much took care of business in that one. Probably should have pulled it. Should have been over earlier. They kind of let Michigan just kind of hang around, but it was pretty obvious who the better team was in that game.
Yeah, it was a good game. I think the John Mateer investment for Oklahoma is going to pay off. He looked really good in that game, and I think it was just a really good showing for the Sooners going forward because they also have a really tough schedule in the SEC. Still not sure about Underwood. He's a true freshman. We'll see what he's able to do in Big Ten play, but a good test for him to start off this young season. So week 3 games that I'm really looking forward to are Georgia at Tennessee, Florida at LSU, and Texas at Notre Dame. You got any others that you're looking forward
Texas
to?
A&M and Texas A&M and Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Yeah, Georgia Tennessee. That's always a fun environment. We talked earlier a few weeks ago that this game rarely ever happens in September. So glad to see this one kick off early. Georgia's a 3.5-point favorite. I actually like Tennessee in this one just as the home underdog here. Texas A&M at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is still in the top 10, even though they have not won a game yet this year. Interesting. Of course, they had a bye week, obviously, last week. And then Florida LSU. Yeah, I mean, Florida can fix their whole season if they can fix the trajectory of their season easily if they win at Death Valley. I don't see that happening, but they have the chance. And you forgot to mention another ranked matchup, South Florida at Miami. I know Miami's 17.5-point favorites, but if South Florida wins that game, I mean, South Florida really has a case to be ranked number one in the country because they beat three ranked teams in a row: Boise State, Florida, and then if you win at Miami, I mean, I know Ohio State beat Texas, but I mean, no one would have even close to as good of a resume as South Florida would if they somehow knocked off Miami. So I do kind of want to see that happen just to see where South Florida would end up in
Right.
the AP poll. But 17.5 is a lot of points.
Yeah. Yep. Looks like they'll end up being the group of six that gets into the playoff, but we'll see what happens. And that'll wrap things up here for the K&L Sports Huddle. We will be back, of course, next week to recap week 2 of the NFL and week 3 of college football, and then give our picks against the spread. Fun weekend of football. Can't wait to get going here on Thursday with the Thursday Night Football matchup. But that'll be it for us here, and we'll see you next week.